I'm going to check to make sure we're live. It says we're live.
Yeah, I think we're hot.
We're good? Yes. All right. My name is Dr. Sharnael Wolverton-Sehon. I'm with Swiftfire.org, True TV. Super excited because we're going to talk to a representative here from Louisiana, Blake Miguez. And we've been kind of playing back and forth for the last week or so, trying to get a nailed down time, just because I would like to introduce you guys to him. I want you to hear his heart, understand where his passion's coming from, of why he's actually doing everything that he's doing for all of us, and also give you guys the latest update on this like open Louisiana situation, because I really do think that this is something that needs to happen, as not just here in Louisiana, but all over. So first of all, Blake, mucho gracias for being here with us today. I appreciate it. I know how daggone busy you are doing all the things that you do.
Sharnael, thanks so much for having me on the show today. Thanks for your interest, and thanks for trying to get the message out there on the hard work that we do in the legislature. Like you mentioned, I know you wanted me to give an introduction to myself for your viewers out there that haven't met me. My name's Blake Miguez. I'm the state representative for District 49. I represent the south central coast of Louisiana, which is Iberia and Vermilion Parish. I've been elected for 5 years now, since 2015. Serve on several committees. One is the Appropriations Committee, as well as serve as the House Republican delegation. We have a near supermajority in the House. We have 68 of the 70 needed to have a supermajority. We also enjoy a supermajority in the Senate, the chamber across the aisle from us, across the rotunda from us. So in Louisiana, we have a supermajority in the Senate, a near supermajority in the House, and we have a Democrat for a governor. His name is John Bel Edwards. A little bit of background on where I come from. I'm from the Bayou. Bayou Teche, Tabasco. I'm sure you've all heard of that. Comes from within my district, right there from Avery Island, just 5 minutes down the road from here. I've been involved in politics from a young age. I can remember throwing candy in parades for the local sheriff at 8 years old. I worked on congressional campaigns. I went to law school after graduating from LSU, and I worked in the Attorney General's office. A number of different jobs along the way. Worked on as a state senator's aide while I was in college. Got a taste for the legislative process. But when I got out of law school, I went into the family business. We're all oil and gas related. Kind of took a little detour for a second, a hiatus over to California. And I was on a reality TV show for 3 seasons, Top Shot on the History Channel.
What? Wait, I didn't know that. Say that again.
Yeah, so there was kind of a neat experience. I was on season 1, 2, and 5 of Top Shot on the History Channel. It was a reality TV show. And the reason I was chosen for the show was my background, being from like Cajun country, being an attorney, a business owner, as well as being a former world champion pistol shooter, still a current national champion, a Team USA shooting member. So I actively compete with handguns across the nation and the world. I'm a big advocate of the Second Amendment.
Yes.
When I showed up at the council, the Second Amendment was one of my main issues. Now many others are my main issues. But what drove me to run for office was the idea that if I didn't run, who would run in my place and who would be making decisions for my children and grandchildren's future? Particularly being from the Louisiana South Central area, I noticed that our economy was slowing down from 2015 with the oil and gas industry. A number of litigation issues in our state, a number of things that held us back. And as we look at our rank, we're ranked 50th as compared to our peer groups, our other states, and our economic performances. These were all concerns that I had prior to COVID-19. We have a strong out-migration problem, losing our skill sense to Texas. But I always believe that the only thing holding us back is ourselves and our local state government, because our policies, because we have some great things going on for us here in Louisiana. I mean, think about it. Tabasco, in my district, everyone in this world knows about Tabasco. It changed a lot of people's lives for the better. Our Cajun food is great. Our culture is great. We have natural resources under our feet. We have some of the deepest water ports. We had at one time a vibrant oil and gas industry. We have a vibrant agriculture industry all the way from North Louisiana down to South Louisiana, whether you're talking about timber, beans, or cane. Got a lot of great things going for us. On top of, you know what's our biggest asset, Sharnael?
People.
Our people here in Louisiana. They will take their shirts off their back for you. They've shown it. Storm out to Louisiana, Brazilian. They'll help each other out. They'll cook some of that great food for those that are most needed, as well as those linemen out there helping with our storms. We've had 3 hurricanes this year, but Louisiana is proud of their culture, and we've got a lot of great things we can offer our young people. But we have to be able to offer them good job opportunities and a good economy. And these are some of my biggest concerns for my children and grandchildren moving forward. I wanted to make sure that once I leave office, I left an environment that my grandchild or my child would want to grow up here in Louisiana, be an LA fan like myself, be a Raging Cajun fan if they want to go to Lafayette, UL. But that's more important, them staying here in Louisiana than moving to Texas and becoming a Texas A&M fan or UT fan. No harms to those Texans out there, but I love my Cajun culture. I want my children to stay here in Louisiana. I want them to be proud. I want them to grow up here in Louisiana. And that's why I ran for office, and that's my goal at the end of the day, to make Louisiana's future prosperous. Now, there's a number of ways you can do that. I thought we started with tort reform at the beginning of the year. We made some great progress there. And then in the middle of all this, we get dropped a COVID-19 bomb right in the middle of 3 hurricanes and the challenges that our country has faced this past year. So we have been fighting an issue where obviously, our economy had been shut down. Our governor took immediate action. Remember those great people I was talking about in Louisiana that like to take their shirt off their back for their neighbors? They did that. They sacrificed. They stayed at home early on in the process for several weeks. They sacrificed to make their businesses safe, their employees safe, their clients safe, their households safe, their schools safe. And then as we started going along in this process, we started learning more about this virus and some of the different survival rates and how it was affecting our healthcare system. After our governor came out and said, please help us flatten the curve so we don't overwhelm our healthcare system. Well, Louisianans made those sacrifices. They did that. We blink our eyes to find ourselves 8 months later, and we're still in a situation where many out there are struggling to make a livelihood. Our children's educational experiences are much different than before. It's affecting them mentally and physically. We see in situations where the kids come home with sores in their face from masks or not being able to play those extracurricular activities to the same degree they were before, which helped them mentally get through the education process and understand there's a brighter future ahead for them. Those are just some small examples. We saw winners and losers in the business world. For example, if you had a casino, you could have capacities at 7% indoor. Yet you were outdoor in a high school football game on a Friday afternoon. At one point in time, you could only have 25% capacity. I believe the governor recently moved that to 50%. If you were fortunate and you chose to feed your family by owning a bar, you were in rough shape here in Louisiana. Still, half the bars across this state are shut down. Those that are open are still intimidated daily by different agencies, state agencies. Are still at the bar. They can't have live music. A lot of their activities, which help them make a living and make their businesses successful, have been restrained. We're to a point where 8 months later, we've got to learn how to live with this virus. We've got to put ourselves in a situation where we understand that Louisiana, most of all, out of all the states, needs to get its economy back going. We understand that this virus has, in cases of those under 65, a survival rate of 99%. I think 96% if you're over 65. We know a lot more about the virus. We should take it very seriously. We should take all the precautions that we seek necessary. You should wash your hands. You should social distance. If you think you need to wear a mask, then wear one. We won't judge you. But what's most important is that the government's role is to give the guidance and study this information and provide all that information to the public on what those public health risks are. And it's up to the individual to decide what's best for themselves and their family. Government mandates don't do it for us. And they won't get us to a road to prosperity. We can work together to make Louisiana open up as quickly and safely as possible. But our governor needs to understand the struggles that Louisianans have been going through these past 8 months.
Yes, and not to mention that it's unconstitutional.
Great point there. So we debated that over the last 2 months about, we give the governor. So talking about the Constitution, I'll roll back. The Constitution gives all of the authority to the legislature. The legislature had determined at some point in time previously. I know you had former Representative Woody Jenkins.
Yeah, Woody's a good friend.
Look, we understand that when there's an emergency, whether it's a hurricane, a terrorism attack, a virus, you have to have an executive branch that has certain extraordinary powers that they can use to react to the situation and make sure that we can stabilize government and react quickly. That's something that happens in the first 30 to 60 days of a disaster. But when you find yourself 8 months later and you have an executive branch that's been completely unchecked and that are operating with state agencies to use our taxpayer dollars that are funding these state agencies to intimidate small business owners, which is a situation we have now, that's not the intent of what our statute had allowed.
And two, not to mention the business owners are put in the position, not just the other people to intimidate the bar people, but the actual business owners are feeling the pressure to mandate or orchestrate that everybody follows whatever the governor said too, which they're not the police. They're not the ones who should be making sure all this is happening.
Look, business owners in my district, they want less government in their lives. They can be successful. They just want government to get out of the way. And the last thing they want to do is become private enforcers for the government, mass mandates or restrictions, whatever it may be. That's not something that they should have to do. On top of the fact that when you look at our Emergency Powers Act, we believe that the governor, and I say we, some of the members of the legislature believe the governor is acting outside of his constitutional authority.
Yes.
Where it says that he can create his own penalties or he can take his powers and delegate them to the fire marshal or alcohol tobacco commission to enforce some of these things. It's gotten out of hand. That extraordinary power is supposed to be given for a limited amount of time on a limited basis with the ability for the legislature to take it back. Now, we used one of those abilities recently which we are calling the House petition, the legislative petition that I think that's 2 Fridays ago, we delayed them terminating the public health emergency. But I'll rewind and let you know how did we get to that point where we had to use our last resort option. For the last several months, the House Republicans have worked very hard to find different ways to compromise with the governor to try to get an understanding where he was. Like we wrote letters, we've entered lawsuits on behalf of bar owners. We've been trying to negotiate with the governor. We found ourselves in a situation where we kept getting prolonged phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Look, at one point in time, I had brought a House concurrent resolution to suspend the enforcement powers that they were using against these business owners. And I said, Governor, you had a moment?
Okay, no, go ahead. I got something to say after you say this. Go ahead.
This was back in May before we went to the petition. I said, Governor, if you agree to put us into phase 1, end the stay-at-home order, and start looking at reopening Louisiana on a regional basis, we can understand. I'll put this in the trash. We got some results from him. The next few days, he opened up into phase 1 on a regional basis. And we thought, in our minds, over every 2 to 4 weeks, we'd see ourselves progressing through these phases, understanding, collecting the data. This is at a time when we knew less about the virus. But again, we blink our eyes, we're 8 months later, and we find ourselves almost in a phase 3 eternity until there's a vaccine, is what we've seen in a lot of his statements. And that's just not acceptable to the people in our districts. We got a lot of calls in the House. We got a tremendous amount of pressure saying, look, you're killing my livelihood. We need to open up. We've got to learn how to live with this virus until there's a vaccination. The detriment that you're doing by taking no action on our economy, on our kids' futures, is much worse than the coronavirus itself. And we want you to take action. So we went into a special legislative session, the second special legislative session of the year, just about a month ago, and with a number of things we want to take up. Look, we addressed some issues with hurricanes, and as well as dealing with the unemployment trust fund, the automatic tax increase that was going to go into effect that we stopped. But the main thing was to address the governor's emergency powers. We brought suspension resolutions. We brought bills to limit the authority of the governor, or to put the legislature in the position where they could have some oversight. At the end of the day, we unanimously, House and Senate Republicans passed HB 4, which would not have ended the public health emergency, but have left it in place, similar to like what Tennessee did, but would have allowed the legislature to go through with a majority of both chambers and go through the emergency order and pick out things that they thought wasn't right, like maybe a mask mandate. I know a lot of the House and Senate members don't agree that should be a statewide mandate. Let's use that, for example, and strike that out. After that, vetting through our presiding officers and take a vote. And if we voted a majority of both sides, we could strike certain areas of the emergency proclamation, still leaving the public health emergency. All those fear-mongering arguments that the governor made, take those off the table. And we could have the best of both worlds. He could still be managing this crisis with some legislative oversight, providing more information to the legislature, and we could get rid of some of this nonsense, like mask mandates and capacity restrictions, activity restrictions, some of these things that are killing our small business community, and we can move forward. What did he do? Carried the bill on the House floor. He vetoed it, I think, the first and second day. Said he would veto it ahead of time. The suspension resolutions couldn't get hearings into the Senate. They preferred to have a legislative instrument. They thought the governor would compromise at the end of the day. He didn't. The last day of session, the House Republicans got together and we signed a petition. As you know, in the code, I know Woody's probably come on here and discuss it because he was part of creating the legislation. There's an avenue that says that if one chamber of the surviving members, a majority of those signed by petition, they can end a public health emergency after consulting the public health officer. We had consulted the public health officer for the last several months. We actually brought the public health officials in for a special meeting to address at the beginning of the session, both in person, and we sent letters to them that they were. Now look, the governor said keep it shut down, but that wasn't a requirement in the law. The requirement in the law was we consulted with them and we did what was best for our constituents. We in the legislature, we want to see at the table. We want the information that our constituents want. We want to have oversight. The governor hasn't received that message. He hasn't been the best to work with. He hasn't wanted to compromise much. So we found ourselves in a position where our petition was our only avenue. We delivered to the governor, and it's our opinion and the attorney general's opinion that when we delivered to the governor, he's no longer had any extraordinary powers to enforce any type of COVID-19 restrictions. We're back to ordinary law. And we find ourselves today in a gray area because he disagrees. He says that he has this power and it's unconstitutional. He came up with a number of reasons. Sounded like a good attorney, ready to defend himself. Not short other than 3 or 4 days, he filed a lawsuit against the legislature, our Speaker of the House, and the state of Louisiana. So now we find ourselves today in a situation where it's the people versus Governor John Bel Edwards. And we have a court hearing on the 12th and the 19th JDC to address whether the House petition will in fact end the public health emergency, removing the governor's emergency powers, which effectively removes mask mandates and capacity limits and allows those small business owners and those parents out there to run their businesses again, those parents for their kids to have a normal education experience, to get Louisiana back to normal. Now, it doesn't mean we're going to ignore the coronavirus. Yeah. We take the coronavirus very seriously, but we take every disease and virus seriously. But what it says is that we're not going to cause more devastation with our response than the virus itself. And look, I encourage everyone out there, use your common sense, wash your hands, social distance, do things, while this is going on, do more appointments versus in-person meetings. But at the same time, we're Louisianans. We got to live our lives. We have constitutional rights. And we can't find ourselves, and I feel like we're going there, we can't put ourselves in a situation where we have a tyrannical governor who wants extraordinary powers for a indeterminate amount of time. We don't know when a vaccine's coming. It could be 6 months. It could be a year from now. The governor's in a position now where not only has he been writing laws and suspending laws, but he's been suspending a lot of legislative oversight, a lot of procurement laws, taking away a lot of our constitutional liberties. And I think the people of Louisiana are tired of it. And we're ready to move forward and to have our kids back to normal, our educational experiences back to normal, and our businesses back to normal. Open up our economy. Our unemployment rates have skyrocketed since COVID-19 started. Unemployment trust funds out of money. We can only rely on federal funds for so long. And I'll point this out: not one government official has stopped receiving their payroll check. Yet employees across this state have been laid off. Small business owners are seeing devastation, having to temporarily close their businesses. The tourism industry, that industry is devastated. Half of those businesses have to close. Yep. Some of those will never return. I fear for Louisiana's future. I heard the voice of the people in my district, and I brought that to the Capitol, and I was proud to sign the petition and take the actions necessary to rein in the governor's tyrannical powers that he has. I mean, the Constitution gave it to the legislature. We want some of those powers back, and we want to have oversight. We want a seat at the table. We want the people of Louisiana in our district to have a seat at the table because, look, we all want the same thing. And I believe the governor, truly in his heart, wants the same thing. We want what's best for Louisiana, but we have to work together. We no longer can be in a situation where one man can make all the decisions for all of us. This is our Louisiana. And I ask our governor, please listen to the voice of your constituents. Let us make a living again. Let's get our kids' lives back to normal. I hope we see the LSU game here soon. I mean, LSU football is not even back to normal. We've had a bad season this year, Sharnael.
Yes. Well, I have a few things just to piggyback on. First of all, I'm a naturopathic doctor, so I concur with what you're saying about businesses going down. I've seen so many businesses going down, and the effects of the children and the classrooms and what have you. What's interesting is the flu is completely gone. We're not seeing any flu cases, and I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't a virus. I'm just saying that there's a shift in how it's a long thing about that. So vaccinations is another topic. Waiting for a vaccination. There's other ways that we can build our immunity, which I don't hear a lot of people talking about, just with, upping your vitamin D, upping your vitamin C. I mean, I'm working with people. We're seeing people get cleared of it really, really fast, unless you are having extreme circumstances in other areas and you're older, like you mentioned before. So, and you guys can watch that video that I did with Woody. I'll put it here in the Representative Woody Jenkins. I'll put it here in the comments. But all of these guys, all these reps, the whole purpose of these guys who are working for us, and women who are working for us, is they're representing the people of Louisiana. And I love what Blake is saying is he listened to the people, he got the feedback, and that's the job of the rep, is to represent the people of the country. Well, that too, the state, and bring that information of what we're saying forward. Not everybody is doing that, and I just find it really interesting that alcohol rates are up with my patients and what I'm working with. I'm not just dealing with major depression type stuff, but the suicide is sky high. The suicide hotlines are up like 600%, Blake. I mean,
that's very concerned. I'm glad you brought that up.
It is divorce rates, crazy court stuff. I mean, I was in court most of yesterday, and the stuff that I was hearing, I'm telling you, a lot of that is a result of what's going on. Almost everybody that got in that courtroom that had something to say did not have a job. They were trying to pay whatever they were trying to pay, and they did not have a job. They cannot afford to take care of their kids. I know, like I said, many businesses who are gone and will never come back. And you know what? Some of them are moving. And some people are moving out of state to other places that have governors that aren't acting like this. And so we don't want people to move out. I'm not personally from Louisiana. I've been here since I was 14. But I don't like what this is looking like. And I don't like that people are talking about moving, because I think this is a great place. And we have a lot to offer here. The other thing I was going to say is, or ask you, is what can we do? Because what things that I talked with Woody about, a lot of people, to be honest, had no idea at all, because the news has been completely silent about this. And when I did this, when I found out what was going on, I did an interview with Woody. That went out. That was the same day. I literally thought when I would go outside the next day and things would be different. People wouldn't be wearing masks. People would do whatever they were doing. Things would be open. I mean, even when he did the phase differences, it was, but we're going to do this too. So it really wasn't a true phase jump, because we were still wearing masks and the numbers were still different. So it was like a way to appease. I mean, no judgment, but it really wasn't a true change in the phases. And so, I really thought, well, I'm going to get this out there and this is going to be all over the news. And it wasn't all over the news. And whenever I would talk to people and say, hey, we're open. Did you watch the video? Are you seeing anything? Look on the news, watch the news, thought it was going to be on there. Nothing. It was like crickets out there. And so I was like, you guys are working your tails off, doing all the jobs. I mean, some of you guys work full time and do this, night and day, working for us, representing us, and no one even knows what you're doing. And, so that's why I really wanted to get you on and other people. But the one thing that I keep hearing is, even when people hear about it and I get to tell people about it, a lot of them are just like, well, we're just praying that the Lord would have this in their hands, and we're just praying that God's got this, and I get it. I believe in God. I love God and all of that, but also I feel like there's a call to action as us being here on the planet, that this is time to actually do something. I mean, you don't just wait for everybody else to do something. And yes, you do a great job representing us. There's a lot of representatives that are doing something for us as we speak our mind and we say what we like, and you guys are doing that. But there's also that responsibility or responsible part of our own action of just doing something on our end. So please tell us, what can we do? What can we do to participate in supporting you and all these other guys who are working so hard to get this going?
Well, first of all, thank you for acknowledging the hard work that we do. I'm the leader of the Republican delegation. I can tell you, we have members from every part of the state. I'm very proud of the work that they did this past session. They were not only in a regular session for several months, they went into a special session over the summer. They came back and answered the call, came into a special session in October. Kudos, big thanks goes out to all of my members there. They worked very hard. They all wanted to reopen this economy. They heard your voice. Look, one thing that's known about the House of Representatives is we are the people's house. We represent a lot smaller districts, and we're known to be a lot closer to the voice of the people, and that's why they call us the voice of the people. I think the biggest issue right now is not the legislature per se. I think it's the governor's office. He needs to hear that message. Obviously, he's part of the executive branch. He represents government. We represent the people. I know he has the same constituency base as us, but he is in charge of running the government. And right now, we disagree philosophically on some of the restrictions that he's put on our personal liberties and how we run our businesses. And one thing I'd encourage your viewers out there to do is you can go online to the governor's website, send him a constituent email, and let him know how this is personally affecting you. One thing you can't listen to is I wouldn't pay attention too much to these statewide newspapers and media sources because a lot of it is biased. You're not going to get the whole picture there. If you want to hear the real story, call your state legislator, call your representative, call your senator. There's different talk radio. There's social media. Follow our social media pages. I've been putting updates on this initiative, the People versus Governor John Bel Edwards daily, on how people can get involved to try to keep them up to speed on where they are and getting the powers back to the people of Louisiana. Be involved. Reach out to the governor's office, let them know how this is affecting you, and also participate in some of those different. And coming up, I can tell you we have a court hearing in 19 JDC on the 12th at 9:30. My understanding is there will be a Zoom call, so the public can listen to the governor's office and his attorneys. Just have a dispute with the legislature's attorney, the Attorney General Jeff Landry, and that will determine if the public health emergency will be ended or not. If the legislature truly has the authority by petition to end the public health emergency, it'll have a huge effect on the future on their lives and the future of Louisiana. I would strongly recommend them tuning in and making their voices heard. Like I know a lot of different citizens across the state have been involved on my social media account. I think that's a great way to speak to have your message. I've seen there's been town hall meetings. I'm proud to see legislators showing up at these town hall meetings, like trying to say, look, guys, we've been fighting for you. The problem is not us. The problem is the executive branch right now in understanding how much of a strain this has had on our private sector. And I hope the governor gets that message, but we've got to make our voices heard. This is a democratic process, but I'll encourage you, when you reach out to a member of the legislature, or if you reach out to the governor's office, be respectful, be polite. I understand you're frustrated. I'm very frustrated too as a business owner, but our voices are heard best when we can articulate our points and we can be very calm. And I ask that, I know it's frustrating, be polite, but let the governor know how much this is affecting your personal life and your business.
Yes, I agree. And this Zoom call that you're talking about on November the 12th, you said?
My understanding from when I'm reading in the court order, it's going to be November 12th on the 19 JDC's website. It's going to be at 9:30. It's a hearing in front of Judge Morvaught's court. It's to the first hearing on the dispute between the legislature and Governor John Bel Edwards. That'll set the tone. We know that recently there was a TRO filed on behalf of the legislature to stop the governor from issuing another executive order to renew his one that's expiring this week. Unfortunately, that TRO was not granted. So the governor will be issuing another executive order this week, most likely. if it's anything like the past, it'll be just as restrictive. I hope that if anything through the petition that he's heard that he needs to make some compromises, and he'll start to open the can a little more in Louisiana's economy. But that's going to be solely his decision. But if that doesn't affect our court hearing on the 12th, which will hopefully the judge will make determinations on the merits of the case, and I hope he'll choose the people of Louisiana over this continued shutdown. We've got to get our lives back to normal. We've got to get our Louisiana back open. We've got to be prosperous again in Louisiana. We can do that. I know that, I've heard voices from across this state. I just represent one little small district in Louisiana, but I've heard from people across this state. We all want the same thing. We want what's best for Louisiana. And most importantly, we want what's best for our kids and our grandkids. And remember, we want them to grow up in Louisiana. And we want to raise our kids and grandkids here in Louisiana. And if we all stick together and we speak up in a respectful, a very democratic way and process, then I think our voices will be heard. And I think we'll get to where we want to get. But it's a battle. I'm proud of those legislators for fighting. I'm happy to continue fighting for the people of Louisiana, continue fighting for our future. And thank you so much for people like you for getting our message out there. Again, you can't believe what you read in the statewide biased newspaper. They've been very critical of anything that's not about big government and supports John Bell. So I'm glad to hear you guys getting the real message out. And we'll continue our efforts on social media as well.
Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate you. You are an amazing person, and I loved hearing your backstory here. That's the first time I heard some of that. I kind of looked up some, but I guess I missed the whole TV part. That's kind of fun. And I know everyone loves you. I've heard such great things about you, and I just appreciate what you guys are all doing for us. And I'm glad I got this chance to get everybody to get to know you a little bit. Please do go to his Facebook page. And if you can, Blake, when this will be on my page, if you don't mind going there and just putting that Zoom information so people can know exactly where to go. I'm assuming that'll be public, right? I've seen Zoom calls, but this will be a huge one if anyone could come, right?
Yeah, as the information comes out, I'll put it on my Facebook page. I think I recently just got some more info that I need to post this afternoon. But thank you so much for your kind words. Thank you for believing in me. It's not just me. I'm not doing this alone. There's a bunch of great legislators that represent some very diverse districts across this state that are doing just as amazing of a job. We want to deliver for the people of Louisiana. Remember, we work for you. We are public servants. We're not politicians. I don't consider myself a politician. We're public servants, and we want to provide information to you. We want to get government out of your daily lives and stop interrupting just you trying to make a livelihood. We believe in the Constitution and your constitutional rights, and we swore to uphold them. And that's part of our fight. We'll continue to do so. And all I can say is keep us. The only thing I'll ask from you guys is please keep us in your thoughts and prayers as we continue to fight for Louisiana's future. And we live in the greatest country in the world, and we live in a really awesome state. So God bless America, and God bless Louisiana. Be looking forward to speaking with you more in the future, and stay tuned, guys. We've got a lot of fight in us, and we're going to fight for you.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you, Blake. You guys stay tuned. You can go to swiftfire.org as well, and you can go to my website. I actually have several interviews coming up that I think you guys will enjoy. Have a great day, and thank you again, Blake. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.